This is a wonderful, beautiful crowd. I'm so happy there are so many moms and teenagers and family members here with us tonight. My name is Alexandra Blau. I am the head of the Youth Services Department here at the Long Beach Public Library, and we are very, very honored to have Hayley Krischer here with us this evening. Hayley is the author, oh yes, please applaud, yes. Hayley is the author of the adult novel Where Are You, Echo Blue, and the YA novels Something Happened to Ali Greenleaf, which she spelled correctly, A-L-I, thank you, and The Falling Girls. She is also an award-winning journalist who has written for the New York Times, the Atlantic, Elle, and more. She has an MFA from Lesley University. Her latest book, You Belong to Me, was released in April 2025. And Publishers Weekly said, Krischer spins a tense and fast-paced plot full of 80s and 90s references and allusions to the Me Too movement and Jeffrey Epstein's scandal as a cautionary tale. This page-turning novel highlights the way gaslighting and peer pressure can have devastating consequences. With rave reviews like that, we are beyond honored to welcome Hayley to the Long Beach Public Library.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everyone for coming.
This is going to be a lot of fun. I have so many questions. When I found out that your wonderful mother-in-law is a local in Atlantic Beach and very sweetly suggested that we have you come visit us, once I found out what You Belong to Me is about, I was like, that's it. We have to have Hayley come and speak about this book. It is so timely. All about the wellness and beauty world. Can you tell us a little bit about where the concept for this book came from?
Yeah, I mean, I worked at a health food store back in the 90s, and so I think I've always been very into the wellness world and obviously beauty products, and but the wellness industry has gotten so big. In this past year, it's a $6.3 trillion industry, and it's projected to be about $9 trillion by 2028. So we're talking about just this enormous reach that you can just kind of slap wellness on anything and people will buy it. I know that I will be up in the middle of the night scrolling on TikTok and I'll see something that says, oh, this is going to make you feel better, and it's something great for your skin, and it says wellness on it, and everything is clean and organic, and I go click, and then the next day I have it on my porch. And so I found that the social media reach and how powerful it is, was such a fascinating place to start. I also have a teenage daughter who's 16, and she's in the audience, and she, I'm looking through social media with her as well. I see how so many of these companies, they use a lot of cult-like tactics to market to teenagers. And so I kind of wanted to sort of explore all that. And also the celebrity, wellness and beauty industry. I think everyone knows a celebrity company that you like their products and you like the way that they do their makeup or moisturizer, and I think I just really wanted to explore what the dark side of that looked like.
And you certainly did. I just want to read a little bit for those who may not know what the book is about. Frances Bean has always been content living life on the perimeter until she gets paired up for a class project with rich and popular Julia, daughter of famous wellness guru Dina Patterson. The magic skincare products, healing sound baths, and extravagant parties of Dina's company Deep never really interest Frances before, who wears the badge of goth outcast and bookworm proudly. But FaceTime with the girl she has been crushing on for years is starting to give her a new outlook. What was the influence of 90s culture, other than the naming of Frances Bean, who was named after
Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love's daughter, who's a real person.
Yes,
and
she is. Just married to
another 90s
Tony
icon.
Hawk's son. Yes.
So I really love outsiders and people who are looking in, and I thought that Courtney Love and Kurt Cobain are sort of the ultimate outsiders. Even though their Nirvana and their music, lives on today, and so many people still listen to it. I feel like what they really stood for was, sort of this looking from the outside in mentality. And so Frances, I wanted her to sort of be like this person who felt insecure. She didn't really love her skin. She's a teacher's daughter, and she felt, everyone else has a lot more money than she has, and she goes to this super elite private school. The only reason she goes is because her mom is a teacher there, and she feels like she needed a place to belong. And so she ends up falling for this girl named Julia, whose mom is a wellness guru. She's a local wellness guru, and they sell all these great skin products, and she goes to their parties, and everyone's wearing white, and everyone looks so good, and they all have a glow to them, and she just wants to be part of that world, and she kind of dumps all of her friends, which happens. She has a new girlfriend, and that kind of can happen, but she dumps all of her friends and doesn't realize that she's getting into this kind of a cult. So, without giving too much away.
Yes, we're not going to have any spoilers today, so hopefully none of the questions in the question jar involve spoilers, but I'll make sure we're not giving anything away. I found that was really relatable, the way you handled her separation from her group of friends into the world of deep and femme, especially when you're falling in love. And then one of the songs on your playlist from when you were writing was Love is the Drug. And it's so true that when you're under the spell of someone, little by little you can find yourself losing yourself, and it makes you susceptible to who they are and what they're kind of pushing on you, and this is a much more drastic case of that.
Yeah, because Frances Bean is just like a regular person. I mean, her mom says, buy your makeup at CVS. Like, you can put Vaseline on your face or something like that. And, and she's like, no, I'm in love with this girl, and I want to do whatever she's doing. And I think that can happen in a friendship, that can happen in a romantic, relationship. And it's sort of like all the red flags that are up that she should have seen, and that maybe she would have seen if she wasn't like so in love and intoxicated by this love that happens very quickly. I think she would have been like, wait, why are there older men at this party for teenage girls? And why does everyone have to wear white? And, why am I being told to sort of stop talking to my friends?
Right.
And, so there's a lot of questions that she doesn't really ask that you want to be able to ask yourself if you're, diving into like a new relationship. Are you compromising yourself? And so Frances Bean, she definitely, it takes her a little while to sort of wake up.
Yes, and we're all rooting for her to finally wake up. So Deep has an offshoot for young girls called Femme. What do you think about the power of teenage girls as part of the influencer movement? And how does social media make the messaging of those influencers different than, say, Sassy or 17 magazine when we were younger? What is the influence of social media? Do you feel like it's making it more intense, quicker?
Yeah, it's much faster. And look, I mean, I see a lot of teenagers here, and when I was younger, we had actual magazines where we like looked through and we were like, oh, this is so cool, I'm gonna cut this out and put it on my wall, this is what I wanna look like. And then maybe you'd go to like, the drugstore, and you'd find like this fantastic mascara, and you would say, I love this mascara, it's so great because I saw this girl in 17 magazine wearing it. And then you look in the mirror at yourself, and then you go on with your day, and you really rarely look at yourself again, except like maybe if you're in the bathroom at school. So with social media, the difference is that you see somebody who kind of looks like you, or maybe older than you, although there's a lot of teenage influencers out there now, and you're like, oh, I love that look, I want to look like that, I love this idea, and that's fine. But because teenagers and all of us, we're just bombarded with images like all day long, constantly. Every time you open your phone, you're just bombarded with images. So it's so different from when when I was growing up, and that's okay for it to be different, but I think you have to also be able to look at that you're getting this constant messaging. Like, this stuff isn't like just coming to you for free. So I think, because a lot of parents have asked me, like, so how do I talk to my kid about social media and how do I deal with this? And the truth is that social media isn't going away, and you have to be able to just have a real conversation with your kids or your grandkids or whomever it is and say, all right, so what is this person trying to sell you? And what do they want from you? And again, that is okay. There are advertisers all over the place, and there always have been. But I think it's really important for you to just take a look at social media and how powerful it is.
Yes, and the product messaging too. We were kids, we were sold St. Ives apricot scrub, right? Why were we using St. Ives apricot scrub?
I don't know.
Our skin has been fried off with it, but we were getting, that was the
hurt,
thing.
you got like a rash after
Yeah.
but you still kept using
It
it.
was like exfoliating like 5 layers of skin, but if everyone was using it, that would be, so we were falling for the same thing too, it was just in a different way.
Yeah.
What moved me most as a reader and a former / forever teenage girl was Bean's longing for identity. Despite having a solid group of friends that loved and supported her, she still felt like an outsider because she was the teacher's daughter, she didn't have the same amount of money. Can you go into a little bit more of why she feels like she doesn't belong and how that set her up to be involved in DEEP?
Yeah, so, again, like I said, she, Frances Bean goes to this school that's a super elite school, and everyone has like a ton of money, and they all have these great clothes, and secretly, even though she's like kind of this goth outcast, and she wants that too, and it's understandable. She wants to feel understood and feel like she belongs, and so when she sort of meets all of these girls at the DEEP company and the DEEP parties, they really like entice her. They're like, you're so beautiful, you're so amazing, and they start, just giving her like love bombing. I don't know if everyone knows what love bombing is, but they really start just giving her all these fantastic compliments and putting her up on a huge pedestal to the point where then they can sort of start taking her down.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a real serious cult mentality to this, and it just shows you that anyone can be manipulated, even the most kind of down to earth person.
Yeah, and I respected her. She felt like all of her friends were unique, and she didn't see her own uniqueness. Like, she kind of thought that she was riding on their coattails, and she was kind of swept up in their originality and their intellect and their abilities, and it kind of broke my heart for her that she didn't see how special she was until she was being manipulated.
Yeah, I know, and I think that's, some of the heartbreak of just growing up.
Yes, definitely.
And as you get older, you hopefully find more worth in yourself. But I really tried to like put a message in this that, just you have to like really like who you are inside, and it's very important even when you're a teenager and all your hormones are kind of raging and your brain is growing, and it's just really important to be able to say, okay, wait, and listen to yourself and say, okay, this doesn't seem right to me. And if that's the case, it probably isn't.
And I think it's also really important to let your friends know how you really honestly feel about them, and like be your friend's biggest champion, not when they're, one foot into a cult, maybe. Tell your friends how great they are before they get sucked into a cult.
Well, I think the cult thing too is just the toxic behavior of a cult was another reason why I really wanted to write this book, because I'm just there's so many cult documentaries out there, and
Watched them all.
yeah, and I've been fascinated since like the Manson family, cult and those murders, and I think there was always something that I wanted to tell in this book, which is that victimizers can be victims too.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the girls who are the cult members, you know, of this wellness cult, they're girls who have all been manipulated by these adults.
Right.
And so it's something that it's really important to look at, because you can look at somebody who's like not a good person, and it might be just a lot more complex than that they're just not a good person.
Yeah.
There's a lot more to it, and I think, especially when I was thinking back about the Manson sisters, these women who, you know, murdered people, and obviously they don't go out and murder people. That's definitely not a good thing to do. Yeah, step one. But I think it's also really important to see that those young girls, they were young girls,
Mm-hmm.
you know, when they murdered people, and they were really heavily manipulated by Charles Manson, and they were, you know, thought control was, you know, used against them, and they were given an enormous amount of drugs. And so you can't just say, okay, that person's a murderer. I think it's just really important to look at people with compassion, even if they're maybe the most evil person on earth.
I wanted to talk to you about Kai, because Bean struggles to find her individuality, and that's something that Kai weaponizes. What were some of his tactics for getting inside Bean's head and leading her away from her core group of friends and her mom and into the dark side of Deep?
Yeah, so Kai is this young, very, very handsome, college-aged boy who sort of runs the offshoot of the teenage girls group for the wellness cult, Deep. And Kai is just this guy that you want to just be around all the time. And so he is often like, you know, pulls one girl at a time and says, "You're fantastic. I think you're amazing. And let's, you know, these other girls, we don't have time for them," you know, and so he uses all of these sort of ways of sort of making Frances feel like she is the most special one in the room, and that she shouldn't trust anyone else except for him, and that maybe her friends aren't so great because he's like, well, you should listen to me. And I think it's so important to just question other people. It's very easy for a charismatic person to come into your life and just say, "Hey, I think you're fabulous. Listen to me."
Especially when they're very handsome.
Yeah, it's really easy to do
We've
that.
all had a Kai at some point.
Yes.
Probably. And if you haven't, you probably will. But watch out. There is an article that just appeared in the Atlantic about wrap sandwiches, the worst sandwiches back. And the author said, "Everywhere I look, the aesthetic values of the 90s have returned, even if the vocabulary has changed. Low carb has been replaced with high protein. Dieting has been replaced with wellness. Starvation has been replaced with fasting. Diet culture is being revived, repackaged, and resold for a new era, and so are the foods that fed it." So, you know, we've talked about 90s culture being kind of like an aesthetic part of the book, but does it play a more substantial role in like what this author is saying in not just aesthetics, but the culture and the well-being?
Yeah, because I think the 90s were a time where people were really searching, and at the same time, I think in the 90s we all felt very apathetic and, you know, not caring about a lot of things. And so it was, you know, with this book there and with this world, you know, these kids are in some ways exactly the same, where they're like, I need something that's going to, you know, help make me feel good.
Right.
You know, and they feel a little bit like detached from their world. And maybe it's because, you know, there's so much turmoil in our world, and there's so many things I guess, that we could all worry about. And I think with all the information that we have, I think it makes sense that someone like Frances Bean and lots of these other girls want to sort of have something that's going to make them feel like they don't live in this environment.
Mm-hmm.
That really kind of takes them away and makes them feel special.
There are so many things that the girls were talking about within the realm of Deep that could be, or that are helpful, mindfulness, meditation, sitting under the stars and giggling with your friends.
Well, wellness isn't bad. I mean, that's
Right.
really the truth. Like, wellness isn't bad. It's when people manipulate it and use it and bastardize it to just sell products.
Right.
That's when it's bad. But wellness as a whole and beauty as a whole, I mean, these are, traditions and, that have gone back, some thousands of years, like acupuncture. I mean, I'm the first person to be, I'm doing Reiki. And most of the time I'm like, why am I doing Reiki? I'm not really sure, but it feels good.
Right.
And, so I keep doing it. So I think that there's a lot of holes in the wellness world, and I think, that people sort of have to find what works for them. I think you just always, like in today's world with social media, and because the wellness industry is so incredibly powerful, you have to sort of be able to look at what's really in front of you and what's real and what's not. But it's not bad to want to feel good.
Right.
It's not bad to want to be therapeutic or spiritual or feel pretty about yourself or, feel handsome or whatever it is. That's not the problem. It's the problem when people use it for bad reasons.
Right. Do you think the bubble is going to burst at some point? Like, do you think there's an end to what is being sold as wellness?
No. No, because I think people love wellness because we all want to feel better.
Right.
I mean, it makes sense why the wellness industry has gotten more powerful and why everything is wellness, because everything in life can be stressful, so it's the question of, it's like, well, how am I going to make life work for me? And for Frances, she wanted to just go right into this world where everything is clean, everything is sparkly, everything is beautiful, and it just, looks fantastic, because then she doesn't have to think about any of her problems. So it makes sense.
It's very captivating. Do you think as a consumer and a parent, do you have kind of like a formula for navigating these murky waters, or do you just feel like you have to go with your gut and resist the urge to click on everything that you see?
I mean, it's hard because I click on a lot of things too, so I get it. And I'm not trying to like make some, be preachy or anything like that. But I think it's a really good idea for parents to be able to speak to their kids and say, like, let's talk about what you're looking at.
Right.
I think it's very easy to, it's hard to stop, like I said earlier, for all that information coming to you. It's really hard to stop that. But I think at least if you can sort of educate your kids and say, and yourself, I mean, sometimes you'll buy something just because you want it. Even though it's a scam, you still want it. And that's I get it.
And when we were younger, we didn't have Sephora and Ulta, we had CVS or, Walgreens. It was, there wasn't any, or maybe the department stores couldn't afford that. But the price point is so much higher now that what you're spending and what kids are desiring, or teenagers or whatever age are desiring, the income inequality plays a big part in that too. Like, you feel like you don't belong because you don't have the money to belong, and it's a cycle.
Yeah, and I also think that because there's been a huge uptick of teenagers who are wellness influencers, I think that there's this idea that you have to be a certain way, and if you're not a certain way, you're not going to feel good about yourself, or your friends aren't going to like you, or you maybe don't feel like you fit in. And I think that's the piece that I hope anyone could take away from this book, which is that you only belong to yourself, and you have to really be able to, see your own worth.
Yeah. Without giving too much away, the three girls that are crucial to the operation of Femme, Kenny, Harlow, and Grace, seem like a cross between the Heathers and Macbeth's three witches. How do you see these girls as essential to the fate of Femme?
Well, you just hit the nail on the head. That, and also, without too many spoilers, they're very similar to the Manson sisters.
Okay.
Again, like I sort of have this picture of these three girls, women, well, they were young women, very young women, who were on trial for murdering these people, and they were sort of walking down this courtroom hallway, smiling and holding hands and laughing, and the pictures are so eerie and so disturbing because they're all wearing the same outfit, and it's really sickening to look at the pictures of them, but at the same time you look at them and think they're so young, and they had their whole lives ahead of them, and obviously so did the people that they killed. I mean, it's horrific. But I really wanted to explore the idea that victimizers can be victims too. And so I wanted Harlow, Grace, and Kenny to kind of be the girls that you see on Instagram, and they're look so cute, and they're always together, and they're holding hands, yet they're the devil incarnate.
They're gonna stab you in the back.
Yeah. Watch out.
Do you know anyone that's gotten involved in occults?
I guess a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think it starts, by feeling you feel really lost.
Yeah.
And you really just want answers that you can't find on your own. And so, and I think a cult can give that to you.
Yeah.
Because I think we have, a big one in our country going on right now. And I think it's very easy not to want to question the person who's in charge. And, with any cult, that's sort of how it works. They always have the right answer. They're always in charge. They're hiding things. They're just denying everything. And so I think there's a lot of good lists online about how cults operate and what to look for in cults. And so I wish I had the list in front of me right now, but I don't. But it's really very similar across the board.
Yes. Everyone always says they could never be lured in by a cult, but if there was something that you would be susceptible to, what would it be? Mine would be the cult of live music that starts at 7 p.m. and no one talks while the band is on.
I love that idea. I would join that cult.
Okay, let's start it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the one. 7 p.m. music.
7 p.m. the band goes on. So you've written 3 books, 3 YA books.
Yeah, 3 YA and
1 adult novel. You've been published in Marie Claire, the New York Times. I know there's a lot of teenagers in the audience who are at a critical time in their lives trying to figure out their next moves. Can you talk a little bit about how you got here? I know as someone same age, the path is not always linear when we show up as fully formed adults. So just to maybe give everyone in the audience a little bit of inspiration that sometimes the path is not A to B.
Yeah. Well, I started writing when I was in high school. Actually, it's a kind of a weird story. When I was in high school, you had to take a class called typing because you needed to learn how to type. And this often was followed by, because one day you might want to work in an office and be a secretary. And so that really irked me, and I was, kind of my own little rebel without a cause in high school. And so I intentionally failed the typing class because I did not want to sit there and type with everybody else. I didn't like the teacher, and so I'm not suggesting that any teenagers do this. But this is just what I did. I ended up having to go to summer school for typing, and my mother's in the audience. I went to summer school for typing, and the teacher said to us, "I don't care what you type as long as I hear the typewriter banging away." And so I started writing a story because I had all these hours to fill. And so every day I came home and I had more, I just kept adding more to the story. And my friends would come over and I said, "I have this story about this girl who has all these problems, very similar to the books that I write about now." And we would read it was all, out on pages because it was typed out. And we would just sort of pass along the story, and my friends would say, oh, add this. And so the next day I would go to summer school and I would add whatever they, suggested. And then by the time I went to college, I was a freshman in college, I had pretty much had a book.
Wow.
And I don't know what I did with that
No.
book. I know. It's so sad, but I don't know. But I remember it always, and that's how I started.
Yeah.
And then I just started writing for the college newspaper and small newspapers and just kept writing. Didn't stop writing.
So you've always been a writer?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I've always wrote, but I wasn't always paid
Were there,
for it.
was there, like, what was your worst job when you weren't a writer?
My worst job when I wasn't a writer. I was an editorial assistant for a company that did college, that they were making a book about colleges and rating colleges. And I tried to format the book in a way that they didn't like, and they fired me. It was like 2 weeks later. Oh, my other worst job was working at the Disney store. I got fired for that one. And I think that was the only jobs I got fired.
I think we have some questions. Tom, if you want to graciously bring those over. Questions from the audience. Thank you so much. Okay. Yes. So what inspired you to become an author?
I just love being able to, what inspired me to become an author. I really love writing stories. I love creating a different world where I get to make up like these ideas of what can happen to people. And it's really thrilling to be able to write and get just completely sucked into that world and be able to just imagine all of any possibility. There's nothing ever wrong. When I first start writing, there's nothing ever wrong with it. Because it's so fresh and it's new, and it's just a great feeling to be able to just put something down on my computer, on the page, whatever it is. Sometimes I write longhand in my journal, and I just love people's stories. I love hearing people's stories. I think that's why I became a journalist too, because I love asking a lot of questions and hearing what people have to say, because you never know what someone's going to tell you. Just listening is a really important part of being a writer.
I love the way this question is phrased. What are the qualifications for a YA book?
So I've thought about this for many years, and I think a YA book is different from an adult book because it has hope, and I think that because that's when we look at kids and when we talk to kids, you want to be able to give somebody hope that your life can change, because it can, because you're young, and really you can bounce back from just about anything, even if you don't feel like you can. And I think that that's the difference. In an adult book, you do not have to have hope. You can end it without a happy ending. People might not read your book, but you don't have to make it all better. But I think with young adult, that's really important. Even when sad things happen, like the book The Outsiders. Really, really, really sad things happen, but Ponyboy still feels hopeful in that, that the sunset is gold and stay gold, and that's always, still in his mind, even though he had, friends died and so many hardships.
That's a really great way of putting it. I don't know that I've ever heard a young adult author phrase it that way. That's really, and there's so many people that love reading YA, and that maybe that's, it is fast-paced, but that might be the resonant things that we all just want to have hope at the end. Can you tell us a little bit about what your writing process is, and how long from the point that you started to publication, like what does that look like?
Well, it really all depends, because if I have a deadline, then I have to write very fast, and I drive my family crazy, and I start, just thinking about my book all the time, and I'll go to the library to write for hours and hours so I have quiet. But often, like right now, I'm starting a new project, and I've been working on it probably for the past year, on and off, and I just actually printed the whole thing out, like about 230 pages, and put it all over my dining room table and separated it in chapters, because I personally need to like feel things, and I'm very tactile, so I need to see it. But I also do note cards, and sometimes I'll just write things just in a journal, or write a chapter or write a scene. But usually it takes a couple of years. I would say it ranges though. My first book, Something Happened to Ali Greenleaf, started as a short story when I was in college, and I just didn't want to ever stop writing it. So I just kept writing it for 20 years, which is not something I necessarily recommend. But that's what I needed to do. It took me a long time to get that story out. And then it took about 5 years for it to get published. So
you have to be patient if you want to be a writer.
You do, and then sometimes, you'll put something out, and then someone will want to buy it like that, and, you just don't know. It really depends on meeting the right person and having people behind you who support you. And, it's really, there's so many talented writers, but it's really about, like, your voice and what's important to you and sticking with that.
Yeah. Well, since you said you're a tactile person and you need to see things, that is a perfect segue for us to discuss an album, an actual physical record. So Tom and I, if you don't know, have a podcast related to our vinyl listening lounge, which is on the first floor of the library. If you are a teenager who has never seen one of these things, this is a record that you play on a record player, and we have over 250 of them downstairs in our vinyl listening lounge that you could take home and borrow. We also have a record player if you want to take a record player home, or you can listen to them in the lounge for as long as you want.
Wait, people can take home record players?
They sure can. We have one that
this
circulates.
Library is freaking awesome.
Thanks. So part of our podcast is we have a special guest talking about their favorite album from our collection, and you have selected Fiona Apple, When the Pawn, which has a very long title after that word, but I cannot recite it word for word. This is also one of my favorite records of all time. My friend Alicia's in the audience. We saw Fiona Apple together not too long ago, or 20 years ago, whatever. I guess that's not that long ago. So tell me about your love for Fiona Apple.
Well, Fiona Apple is sort of like her own YA story, isn't she?
She is.
Because she started singing when she was 16 and got a record deal and did not have the voice of a young person. She had the voice of a very old person and sang like very deeply and very intensely and sultry. So it was hard to believe that she was so young, because she seemed like she had been around for a very long time and been through a lot.
She was through a lot in her life. She had some horrible experiences when she was younger, and that really shaped her writing and her soulfulness, I think.
Yeah. So this is her second album? Second or third? It came out in the 90s.
Third.
Yeah, third. And it really was a departure from her other two because it was not commercial at all.
Yeah.
And every single song is about heartbreak, and really intense heartbreak. And in fact, I jotted down one line just in case I was going to forget it. But there's this one line where she's talking about this relationship that she's in, and she says, "Hunger hurts, and I want him so bad it kills, but I know I'm a mess he don't want to clean up."
Yes.
And so I think when I started listening to her, I felt very similar.
Yeah.
And it was kind of in a messy relationship, and But I don't think you have to be in a messy relationship to listen to her. It helps.
Yeah.
She's sort of like the Lana Del Rey of of the 90s. So if you like Lana Del Rey, you will love Fiona Apple,
Absolutely.
right? I think, yeah, and and this album is just very raw. It feels like she's really just reading her poetry through song, and she's telling you a story in every single song, and her voice is just super raspy, and it's just absolutely beautiful. And it's I listen to it now with my daughter, and it's an album she loves too, and so I don't even think I was playing it for her. I think she told me, oh, I love this album.
Self-discovery of Fiona Apple.
I think so.
Doubly impressed.
Yeah, it was really cool.
There's Leah in the audience is wearing a Boy Genius shirt. So if you enjoy Boy Genius, you would definitely enjoy
Yeah.
Fiona Apple.
Yeah, and Phoebe Bridgers. Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fiona walked so they could run.
Yep.
My favorite
Mr.
line.
Dawkins.
Yes. My favorite line from Paper Bag is she says, he said it's all in your head. And I said, so's everything, but he didn't get it.
We really need to hang out more.
I know we should. Thank you so much, Hayley, for being with us tonight.